Today, we're going to be diving into the top 5 breakout candidates for the 2024 Arizona Cardinals. Let's get started. Alright everybody, welcome back into another video. Yes, it has been a very long time since we posted. There has not been a lot of Cardinals news or NFL news at all. So, took a little break here, but we are back on the grind here and talking everything Arizona Cardinals. If you are a fan, definitely go ahead and shoot us a subscribe and smack the like button on this video. We're going to be throwing out a lot more content, especially because right now we are currently 10 days away from the start of the 2024 training camp for the Cardinals, and I'm very excited. Starting up here on July 25th and ending in August the 3rd. Yo, football season is in the air, and I'm stoked. All right, everybody, let's go and get started here. Let's dive into the top 5 breakout candidates for the 2024 Arizona Cardinals. And let's start off here with QB1, right? Now, I feel like Kyler Murray has made a huge, drastic change from the player he was when we drafted him to the player he is now, right? From the player he was with Cliff Kingsbury to the player he is now with Jonathan Gannon. There seems to be a level of maturity that we have not seen at all, right? Until obviously last year, and now making it more apparent this year because he is actually starting the 2024 season as opposed to last year where unfortunately he was not able to play due to injury. So I feel like we're going to see a big breakout from Kyler Murray. There's a lot of people that kind of forgotten about Kyler Murray. There's a lot of people kind of have him outside the top 10 pertaining to quarterbacks in the NFC just as a whole. And I feel like this is going to be the year that Kyler Murray is actually going to make a name for himself again, right? Now, I do think that there is a big, obviously, caveat here that he needs to stay healthy, right? He needs to be able to stay healthy throughout the entirety of the 17-game stretch. Now, since he's been a quarterback in the NFL, he hasn't been able to stay healthy at all, right, in all his years. I believe there's only one year that, although he did have an injury, he didn't miss a single game, but every single year, with the exception of one, he has missed some sort of games throughout his career in the NFL. We have heard Kyler Murray come out and say he is behind the 8 ball because he's 5'10", right? 200 pounds, that he's not going to be obviously 6'5", 6'3", those type of prototypical quarterbacks, that he's already behind the 8 ball because of his height. But there is going to be a level of, if we can protect Kyler Murray, I do believe that this is going to be a breakout year for Kyler. Now, last year he had a total of 1,799 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, throwing 5 interceptions, and a QBR rating of 47.2. But there is going to be a level of, he was just learning, right? He was just learning the Drew Petzing offense. Now, although you can learn it on the book, during the times you were not able to practice or play, there is a level of, you need to learn it physically, right? You need to get the chemistry down with these wide receivers / tight ends / your running backs, right? And I do believe that the 8-game sample size, that although it was kind of up and down, there wasn't a level of, oh, he's completely back. Although we've seen some flashes, right? Especially in the Houston game with a couple things that happened here and there. There's definitely a level of excitement heading into the 2024 season with a fully healthy Kyler Murray heading into the season. Now, like I said, this is all dependent on, he needs to be able to stay healthy. And I do believe he's going to have a breakout season for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's move on over to the next player. We are staying with the offensive side of the ball. I am going to go ahead and come out here and say Michael Wilson. Now, there is going to be some obvious ones here with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not going to include him right now, although there's a lot of players I can include on this list, and I think your list might be different from mine. That's great, right? Because I do think that this team is different, right? The way that they're handling this offseason is different compared to most other Arizona Cardinal offseasons. So I'm going to throw Michael Wilson in here, 6'2", 213. He's 24 years old, and I do believe this year he's going to have a very good year with Kyler Murray. Now, although they did not have a lot of time to play, in the same games just due to injury. Michael Wilson missed out on some games. I believe last year he played a total of 13 games. Kyler missed the first half of the season, only played the last 8 games of the season. So there was some time of them needed to kind of learn each other, the way that they, break out of their routes, the way that Michael Wilson, runs his routes compared to Greg Dortch. There definitely seemed a level of, Greg Dortch seemed to be that number one wide receiver, right? At least Kyler Murray was the most comfortable with Greg Dortch. And I think this offseason, Michael Wilson and Kyler Murray really made it apparent that they need to kind of get going, right? That they need each other in order for this team to succeed. And I think that being the fact that they're working out mostly every weekend, and that's coming from the mouth of Michael Wilson, that is very, very exciting. But he had a pretty good rookie season, right? If he stayed healthy, he might have cracked 800 yards. But this last year, he had a total of 38 receptions, 565 yards, 3 touchdowns, and averaged about 14.9 yards a catch. And that's actually pretty good for a big prototypical wide receiver on the outside. And I do believe that this is going to be the year that Michael Wilson's going to emerge as that number 2 wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. And I think that they really, and I'm talking about Kyler Murray and Michael Wilson, they only really got going in the last game or two. So now that they have more comfortability with each other, they have more of the chemistry down with each other, definitely look out for Michael Wilson to have a big breakout season. I'm not saying over 1,200 yards, but I think if we can get 900 to even 1K from a wide receiver number 2 for Michael Wilson, that would be an absolute huge jump for this offense moving forward. Now let's move on over to my next breakout candidate. That's going to be none other than Trey McBride. Now, if you ask yourself, well, he already broke out, right? He broke out in the 2023 season, having 825 yards, 81 receptions, and 3 touchdowns, average about 10.2 yards a catch. Yes, I mean, you could be right there, right? But I feel like Trey McBride is going to have an actually even better season this year, right? I feel like we're going to see a Trey McBride like we haven't seen at all. Now, it is crazy the way that his story unfolded when we drafted him in the 2nd round a couple years back. It was definitely very obvious that the Arizona Cardinals were favoring Zach Ertz, but the moment that Zach Ertz ended up getting released and no longer a part of the Arizona Cardinals, we ended up seeing a emergence, one of the best tight ends we've seen in an Arizona Cardinal uniform in Trey McBride, and I feel like this year is going to be just nothing but up and up for Trey McBride. I think he might be one of the best tight ends in the NFC as a whole, so I'm very excited to see what the connection is going to be from Kyler Murray and Trey McBride this year. And I feel like this offense very much favors just kind of being open up the middle, right, with your bootlegs, and just being the fact that Trey McBride is going to be a very, very valuable weapon up the middle for Kyler is going to be very, very exciting to see the connection between them two. And it's crazy because he's still really young. He's 24 years old, and I believe by the time this season is coming to an end, or I guess not an end, but in the late part of the season, he's going to turn 25, and he's still got a lot of upside with Trey McBride. So this year, although maybe non-Cardinal fans are going to say, oh, the Arizona Cardinals are going to do nothing, they got weapons. They absolutely do. They got Trey McBride. They got James Conner. Marvin Harrison Jr. now joining the mix. Michael Wilson, I feel like, is going to have a good year. Greg Dortch is finally now getting his opportunity. So this is going to be a very, very exciting year for the offense. So my 3 breakout candidates for the offense: Kyler Murray, Michael Wilson, and then Trey McBride. Now, like I said a little earlier, you're going to see a lot of people saying, well, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner. I agree. Your list is going to differ from my list, and that only makes it a lot better for this Arizona Cardinal organization, because this offense is actually having some very, very good players. So I'm excited. Overall excited. Let's give some love here over to the defensive side of the ball. I think if you're asking anybody here, the first person they're going to mention is probably BJ Ojulari, and that's not going to change from me. I think BJ Ojulari is due to have a very, very good season for the 2024 season. Stands 6'2", 248 pounds. He was a 2nd round pick in the 2023 NFL draft, and honestly, I'm excited about BJ Ojulari. We don't really have a guy that's dominant on the outside, right? We're going to see another dosage of Zaven Collins. Hopefully he succeeds, because this might be his, one of his last years with the Arizona Cardinals, although the front office and Jonathan Gannon and Nick Riley speaks very, very highly of Zaven. Fortunately, it's a prove it type of business, and if you don't prove it, I don't know, there might be a lot of question marks heading into the end of the season with Zaven Collins, but BJ Ojulari has nothing but all the tools to succeed, and I think every time we hear from Jonathan Gannon as well as Nick Riley, they speak nothing but high praises about BJ Ojulari. Now, the weird thing is that he actually played all 17 games last year, right? Now, he was dealing with an injury, so that's probably one of the main reasons why he wasn't actually 100% on the field all the time. But if you take a look at BJ Ojulari's snap count, it averaged about somewhere under the 20% of playing time, with the exception of probably week 6 and above, right? So BJ Ojulari in week 1, 17%, 19%, 90%, and week 4, 9%. But then he started to kind of get a bump as he started to get a little bit more healthier. Now in week 15, he was playing 45% of the snaps, and then week 16, 43%, and and he only kind of really got a huge jump in the last week when he was playing 73% of the snaps, and I think that's kind of when we started to see a lot of BJ Ojulari. But his stats for the 2023 season, nothing to kind of write home about, but he had 4 sacks, 23 solo tackles. But it's kind of one of those things where I don't really want to say I blame Jonathan Gannon's defense, but I feel like last year it was more kind of a, we're going to make everything, we're going to see what everybody has, right? We're going to give everybody a shot, a fair opportunity to come out here and get some snaps. But I feel like BJ Ojulari, if he can average about 80% to 85% of snaps per game, we're going to see a resurgence of his career, at least get him more sack opportunities for this defense. So I think BJ Ojulari is due for a big breakout year, and he's going to have to be one of those guys that is feared, right, on our defensive side of the ball. So although we got some pieces this last offseason with Nichols and Justin Jones, and we ended up getting D-Rob in the draft, we do need somebody here on the outside, and BJ Ojulari is going to be one of those guys that's going to give, you know, every tool to succeed and every opportunity to succeed, and I feel like BJ Ojulari is due for a big breakout year for our defense. So let's keep it with the defensive side of the ball. Let's give you my last breakout player of the 2024 season. Staying with the defensive side of the ball, we're going to go ahead and go with Kyzir White. Man, this guy plays ferociously. When you hear the way that Nick Rallis or Jonathan Gannon wants our team or defense to play, they say violent, right? They want them to play with high motor and being violent. And Kyzir White gives you that level of violentness. And that's exactly what we're going to be seeing from Kyzir White heading into his second year with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, again, we felt like every week there was an injury, right? And unfortunately with Kyzir White, he had dealt with an injury. I believe it was actually a torn bicep that held him out through, I believe it was 6 games in the 2023 season. So he didn't really get a chance to really put a staple point on this defense. Now, although we all believe that he was the one who actually brought the physicality to the 2023 defense, and obviously Budda Baker in the back as well, but there is the guys in the front 7, those are the real guys that got to bring that physicality, right? Obviously Budda Baker does his best, but he plays safety, right? He's in the back. That front 7 really needs to bring that violentness and that tenacity, and that's exactly what Kyzir White actually brings. He had 1 interception, 2 sacks, 53 solo tackles, and I think overall he actually had a pretty good first year with the Arizona Cardinals, and he knows what Jonathan Gannon's defense, Nick Rallis' defense, right? He's familiar with it, so I think that kind of gives him the leg up, and I'm truly believe he's going to be that Mike linebacker. Now, although we have heard, I believe it was Jonathan Gannon said that he might have people switch, right? Being the guy that plays the, calls the plays in being that Mike linebacker with either Mac Wilson Sr. or Kyzir White. But I feel like Kyzir White is going to be that main guy just because of how he already knows this defense like the back of his hand, right? So definitely expect Kyzir White to have a very big breakout year. Now, all these players are going to be contingent on the fact that they need to be able to stay healthy, right? Kyzir White needs to stay healthy. Kyler Murray needs to stay healthy. Trey McBride needs to everybody needs to be able to stay healthy in order for them to have this breakout year. So I'm very excited about the 2024 season. What is your list? Who do you think is going to break out in the 2024 season? Let me know here in the comments below. I appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day and go Cards.